it's now clear that he loves Valentine. I mean, it's just off the charts. You know, he said I was brilliant, okay? He loved my hair. I mean, Putin has got him in his back pocket because he's just going to flatter the hell out of him if he gets elected. He'll be like, I like your hair, and you have a very great body. You know, you can have Ukraine, okay? I never even been there.
I didn't. Dana Carvey stepped into Trump's shoes and took a hilarious jab at his marriage with Melania. A fake divorce, a one-way plane ticket, and more. But the real story? Melania's private frustrations with Trump's actions may surprise you. Let's dive into what's comedy and what's reality. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The turning point came during Dana Carvey's now famous Air Force Done routine. If you missed it, imagine Carvey adjusting his tie, raising his eyebrows, and launching into a spot-on Trump voice. Melania has left the building, folks, he said, imitating Trump's exaggerated bravado.
The year trying to figure out the appeal of Donald Trump. And, he's a blunt force instrument. So, like, if your cause was global warming and you're going to the conference, who would you rather have with you than Donald Trump? Because he'd be like, you're stupid countries, okay? You're very, very stupid, okay? You're spewing all this stuff in the air. The earth's getting hot. The grass is getting hot. Ouch, 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 ouch.
But don't worry. I've got a one-way ticket. Next stop, Stormy Daniels. It wasn't just the audience that erupted. People online went wild, dissecting the layers to the joke. Was he just poking fun, or was Carvey hinting at something more?
What made me happy?
So helpful.
What made me happy about that is there's so many, and people call him Marmalade or the Orange Man or whatever, but I liked Marmalade, mountain of a man coming at you with carnal intent.
Yes.
Like, that makes my brain happy.
After all, this wasn't your standard Trump is orange comedy skit. It hit closer to home. Melania's home, to be exact. The one-way ticket bit wasn't just a zinger. It was a magnifying glass turned on the swirling chaos of Trump's public life and the tensions that might exist in his marriage. The idea of a fake divorce and a quick leap into Stormy Daniels' arms wasn't just a punchline. It mirrored gossip that's been bubbling for years. There's a reason Carvey's impersonation struck a nerve. It painted Melania as someone desperate for an exit from the Trump circus. A sentiment that's both hilarious and oddly tragic. The audience roared, sure, but behind the laughter was a deeply uncomfortable question. Was the joke closer to reality than any of us want to admit? Carvey didn't stop there.
Trump is like, how are you qualified to be president? Because I'm good, okay? I'm so good. I know how to do it, okay? Okay.
Shifting gears, he ramped up Trump's famous hyperbole to ludicrous heights. We're building the biggest wall. Mexico loves it. They're throwing parties, parades. The Mexican president called. He's crying. That over-the-top line had the audience howling. But it underscored something darker, the absurd theatrics of Trump's public persona. Carvey was holding up a mirror to Trump's most bizarre antics, from endless campaign hyperbole to his meltdowns over minor slights. This was satire doing what satire does best, making you laugh, then making you squirm. And then came the twist. Carvey mocked Trump's fixation on division, launching into a tirade, still in character, of course, about transgender athletes competing in sports. It's outrageous, folks, Carvey thundered, hamming it up in Trump fashion. A 6'4" guy named Brenda just destroyed women's double tennis. Not fair, not fair. It was classic Carvey, using Trump's own mannerisms to expose the extreme dramatics of his rhetoric. By the time he wrapped up with a mock outrage speech, the audience was laughing so hard they forgot it wasn't really Trump.
What do you make of this Melania? Well, she's a beautiful woman, very mysterious, have sort of a still expression, no matter what the circumstances are. Yes, I know, yes.
It's easy to laugh at the jokes on the surface, but the deeper resonance of Carvey's impersonations came from the contrast they highlighted. Here was Trump, a larger-than-life figure, bent on projecting an image of strength and invulnerability. Yet Carvey chipped away at the facade, exposing the absurdity of this projection not just on the public, but on the people in Trump's closest circle. That's where Melania comes in. Throughout the years, she's been tagged as icy, stoic, or outright uninterested in the Trump drama. But Carvey's portrayal poked, satirically, at an idea many seem to believe, that behind the stony expressions and carefully chosen words, there's a woman fed up with her husband's showmanship. And here's the kicker. According to insider reports, Carvey's one-liners about Melania might not be far from the truth. Whispers from Trump's inner circle have suggested that Melania has had more than a few moments of frustration. There's one particularly telling story about her declining to join Trump on trips during the 2020 election lead-up, opting instead to stay home with Barron. Was she just tired of the travel schedule? Or was it her quiet way of stepping out of the chaos? Maybe that's why Carvey's humor connected the way it did. Sitting at the intersection of parody and reality, his routine allowed the audience to laugh while wondering how much of this could really happen. It hinted at something we all suspect: that Melania's private struggles to live alongside Trump's chaos might align more with the jokes than they should. That's where Carvey managed to do more than entertain. He made us think. When Melania was First Lady, she was often photographed smiling when she bothered to show up at all. But those who closely followed her body language always pointed out how choreographed it seemed. Was it a reflection of quiet frustration? An act she wanted so desperately to escape? Carvey's satirical one-way ticket jab, at first just a laugh-out-loud punchline, now reads like a far too accurate guess.
You know, we had a fabulous nuclear war. It was fabulous. Tremendous nuclear war. Your bunkers are terrific. Your bunkers are fabulous. The Chinese bunkers are a disaster. A disaster. Okay?
So what's real here? Is the joke just a joke? Or is it a window into Melania's life behind the manic energy of Trump's public persona? Maybe Carvey knew something we didn't. Maybe Melania saw the skit and, deep down, nodded her head in agreement. After all, comedy is often rooted in truth, no matter how exaggerated it might appear on stage. What's really going on behind the polished smiles and staged photo ops of Donald and Melania Trump's marriage? From the outside, their relationship seems like a carefully orchestrated performance, designed to project unity in the midst of constant political turbulence and tabloid chaos. But according to insider accounts detailed in The Divider, Melania's frustrations with Trump ran deeper than anyone realized, especially when it came to how he handled some of the country's most critical moments. Take the pandemic, for example. While Trump was busy smiling for the cameras, downplaying the seriousness of the virus, and throwing tantrums over press coverage, Melania reportedly wasn't buying into the act. In fact, the tell-all book suggests she was rattled by the coronavirus and believed Trump was, in no uncertain terms, screwing up. It's a version of Melania that's quite different from her public image. The calm, passive figure standing silently at Trump's side. Behind closed doors, she wasn't just rolling her eyes at press events, but actively trying to redirect Trump's attention to what really mattered. She even reached out to then New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, urging him to convince Trump to take the pandemic more seriously. Let's pause for a moment and think about that. Melania, who historically appeared reserved in her influence, was desperate enough to bypass her husband entirely, just to get someone else to talk some sense into him. It tells you a lot about her level of frustration. Trump's response? A dismissive, "You worry too much. Forget it." For a man known for demanding loyalty from everyone around him, it seems like loyalty doesn't always go both ways. And that's the irony, isn't it? On the outside, the Trumps presented a united front. Melania stepping off Marine One in her designer sunglasses and pristine coats, carefully matching Trump's tie color. But internally, the cracks were obvious. The book paints a marriage where discussions often hit a dead end, with Melania's attempts at reason brushed aside by Trump's obsession with appearances and applause. As much as she played her part in public, insiders suggest she privately disagreed with some of his most significant decisions. But publicly challenging him? That was never her style. Then there's Trump's documented attitude toward women, which may have been another source of tension. In the book, his unbecoming disposition isn't just a passing remark, it's a pattern. Trump's tendency to view women through a lens of appearances over capability reportedly extended to everyone, from political figures to those in his personal life. He mocked Nancy Pelosi's plastic surgery and made snide remarks about Nikki Haley's complexion, among other digs. Now imagine Melania, constantly put on display as the picture-perfect First Lady, navigating a marriage to a man who seemed to reduce women around him to their looks. You don't have to look far to find others who've summed up Trump's character in ways that frankly might resonate with Melania's private thoughts. Rosie O'Donnell, one of Trump's longest-running critics, has gone so far as to call him a snake oil salesman and a con man. To anyone who knows Trump through decades of scandals and reality TV stunts, the comparison isn't exactly groundbreaking. But when you think about Melania retreating to her spa days while Trump ranted on Twitter, it's hard not to see a parallel. Maybe her silence speaks louder than any nickname O'Donnell could come up with. That's where Carvey's satire comes into sharper focus. His impersonation of Trump announcing a fake divorce and loading Melania onto a metaphorical one-way flight might have felt exaggerated on stage, but it also reflected the contours of what we know, or think we know, about their relationship. Imagine Melania watching the skit, unbothered, maybe even nodding along as Carvey dramatized her hypothetical exit from Trump's orbit. Whether she's slipping out for some R&R or simply sitting through presidential briefings with a faint look of boredom, the jokes hit differently when you think about the frustration outlined in The Divider. Carvey's parody isn't the only suggestion that Melania lives in tension between public loyalty and private exasperation.
What is it like? We all wonder. We all think about it to ourselves. What must it be like to be Melania Trump? At 2 a.m. with the marmalade mountain of a man coming at you with carnal intent.
The book's accounts make it clear. She's not just a silent participant in the Trump show, but also someone quietly pushing back, even if no one seems to notice. Her efforts to steer Trump during the pandemic, her refusal to fully align herself with some of his statements, and even moments as simple as skipping campaign trips. All of it suggests a woman straddling the line between complicity and quiet rebellion. And that's why Carvey's jokes feel almost prophetic.
We're going to do a lot in these countries. Many people are going to be very happy.
And then he goes to the center.
You're going to be happy. You're going to be happy.
And in his brain, I'm improvising. I love Conan.
When comedy starts to blur into reality this closely, it raises a bigger question. How much of Melania's public role is an act? The book makes it clear that behind the perfect photo ops, there's a more complicated story. A woman trying and failing to influence a man who thrives in chaos. Maybe Carvey's ridiculous impression of Melania packing her bags and hitting the eject button wasn't just ridiculous. Maybe in some ways, it was a reflection of truths the cameras could never capture. When satire starts feeling more real than reality, something's gone off the rails. Dana Carvey's Trump impersonation didn't just deliver laughs. It exposed cracks in the carefully staged chaos of Trump's public and personal life. His exaggerated speech patterns and absurd scenarios mirrored truths that no press conference could hide. That's the power of comedy. It peels back layers of glitter to highlight the messy core underneath. So next time you see a polished political smile or a wild rant, remember the people caught in its orbit. The joke might be on Trump, but it leaves everyone with lingering truths.